Just how exactly did Marvel Studios avoid huge spoilers for Avengers Endgame hitting the internet? Well, they had test audiences and test screenings because they had to, but they were done with family and friends only, which then makes you realize that all the
grift scoopers
were lying when they said that they had sources that were actual test audiences and massive screenings. Would have thought scoopers lied. Thanks to the story of Marvel Studios' The Making of the Marvel Cinematic Universe book, there is an extensive chapter on there on Avengers Endgame, and specifically how they were trying to keep everything secretive so nobody knew what was going on, and they controlled the amount of footage and details that were out there. Well, this relates to test screenings, and as they reveal, they didn't actually hold normal test screenings. They decided to be a lot more careful and a lot more risky by testing it with just their own families, and that was it. That was all the test audiences. Now you can see why this is risky, because there's a tendency of your family to go, oh, that's great, I love what you're working on, and not be critical. So that's interesting. But also, this means that they didn't have massive showings of 100, 200, 300, 400 test audiences that looks at the film and goes, that scene doesn't really work, we don't like it. Of course, we know that some of the family members actually came through and did exactly that, which is why we got the film we did at the end, but, you know, they didn't do a traditional rollout of test screenings, and they revealed that they never had. Now, at the same time, as I mentioned before, remember when scoopers were saying large test audiences and screenings were held, and that's why things were removed from Annihilation, and then that's all been a lie, because it was never called Annihilation. They never had these test screenings, and Black Knight was never in the film, as all of them said. Either way, though, you gotta appreciate Marvel Studios for being that risky. I mean, that's quite a risk. Let's not show it to any general audiences. And typically, screenings with recuts of films, changed scenes, new scores, I mean, they're happening frequently. So who knows how many test screenings they even did and what they were doing. But the fact that they took it this route and were so secretive, I mean, it worked out, I think, ultimately in the end, because we did have some leaks that were accurate, but largely things were kept under wraps. So this film had a pretty good rollout, I would say, all things considered. It could have been much worse. They could have screened it, or somebody could have recorded footage of a phone recording potato footage. I can't wait till Avengers 5, where the test audiences was nobody. They're just like, we know we made something good. Then it ends up being the Eternals. Am I right? The Eternals? Ends up being the Eternals?